Thank you so much for joining our Civil Engineering Careers panel today. My name is Augusto, and I'm very excited to be your moderator for this event. For those of you who are tuning into Millie for the very first time, Millie is a company dedicated to building a global community for international school students. And to that end, we host webinars and panels like this every weekend. You can find an archive for all our past events, as well as a schedule for future events on our website at www.milliegroup.com. If you want to keep up to date with what we have to offer, follow us on Instagram at Millie_group. So here's how today's panel is going to look. We have some pre-prepared questions, but you can always submit your questions. For the first 45 minutes or so, we'll go through the prepared questions, and after that, we'll let our panelists answer your questions. Your questions can be general or for everyone, or you could direct them to specific panelists. Either is fine. All right, so let's get started. Could the panelists please introduce yourself, tell us your name, the city you're currently in and are from, your job role and where you work, and one fun fact about yourself.
Sure. So hello, everybody. I am Nicholas, and I'm based here in Hong Kong, and currently I'm actually now later in my years going back to school studying a master's actually in urban planning at the University of Hong Kong. But prior to that, I worked in some civil engineering consulting companies. Um, First at Fugro, a large geotechnical company, and then later at the renowned company at Arab in Hong Kong. And I for both companies, I worked the office and on site. Um, I A little bit about my earlier background. Uh, stud I studied here in Hong Kong in international schools, and I went to Cornell in the U.S. And eventually settled with civil engineering. So, well, a fun fact about myself is that I my Chinese name, if you translate it, is mechanics. So I guess that tells you how much more of a theory guy I am than your typical civil engineer.
Thank you for that for the introduction, Nicholas. Let's begin with our questions. What first sparked your interest in civil engineering, and how did you know it was the right path for you?
Right. So I would say the thing that sparked my interest was the subway in my city. We call it the MTR, and it's pretty world famous for its efficiency and on timeness and just everything about that. And it gets you to places. Um, it's underground, so I guess. It was stereotypical of um, boys to be interested in trains, and that's what sparked my interest. And now uh, that's like a picture of what something might be, or civil engineering, right? Might be, right, but um, the reality is sometimes very much something more, something that might be very well different from that first picture. So with everything, you have to go and find out about reality, and uh, getting to know people, connecting with people, and then you'll get to hear about other people's careers in, say, civil engineering and all that, and that paints you more stories, more realities. But that might also not be what I do or what you might do, and so getting to know what as much as possible, and then having a thought yourself, having your own thoughts, what kind of career, what kind of path you will take in certain careers, then you might have a more structured and accurate idea of what your career might be. And for me, I would say some things have been more interesting than I anticipated, some things less so. And I think that's so far my path. And to on to lastly, to add on to that, um, I have found civil engineering to be quite an interesting and exciting career, but at the same time, I am pursuing somewhat an alternative right now, uh, doing a master's in urban planning.
Thank you for that. Now, if you go back, we're going to take it back a little bit. If you could go back to high school, what's one skill that you would focus on developing to prepare for a career in civil engineering or in the realm that you're taking your life on right now?
Mhm. Right. I would say in terms of skills, it would be really getting things done or even building things. Those two things sometimes overlap as one kind of skill. And that's you know, building something, getting something done. And because that's something you do a lot in civil engineering design and consultancy. And then if you work on the contractor side uh, on the building side of things or on sites, then that's even more hands-on. Or at least supervise that or manage that. And because in civil engineering school and university and college, uh, what you'll start off is study quite a bit of math and some physics, a bunch of physics mechanics, um, and then hopefully, with all the mechanics classes, that your school will if you get into a good school or a more pragmatic school, I should say, um, hopefully they'll give you opportunities to do some design courses, design projects, and get to work with people, design group projects because working people is super important in civil engineering. Um, and so, but that's very quite different from working in civil engineering, the civil engineering industry. School and work is quite different. So in the end, you're building things. That happens less in civil engineering school. It happens a lot more when you're actually working.
Now, getting onto the field, what's a common misconception about civil engineering that you've encountered, and how would you like to clarify it? Is there anything that maybe you thought before you got into the field that you thought it would be like this, and then it turned out to be another way?
Mm, right. So the industry of civil engineering, one misconception that's quite common and that's a lot of people do see it as well. This misconception is uh, how much math there is. Like there isn't necessarily a lot of complicated math depending on what you're doing. If you like, unless you're doing certain specializations or specialisms in civil engineering, then most of it doesn't take very complicated math at all. And to add on to that, instead, there is actually a lot more of other kinds of problem solving, getting the projects running on schedule, um, managing that project. Uh, there's just a lot uh, versus the kind of just the math and physics that you need to solve. And so, in that sense, so one thing, don't be too overwhelmed or worried about the math or even some of the physics at school, even though I love it. I love physics. And at the same time, be excited about a lot of the other things in civil engineering that you might see in practice in the industry.
Interesting to see all the soft skills that come into play in a field like civil engineering. Thank you for that. Now, how do you explain civil engineering to someone who has never heard of the field? Despite aside from what you have mentioned, the project managing and all of that, is there anything else about the day-to-day of civil engineering that you can share with us? How does that like?
Right. So in civil engineer, to explain civil engineering, basically it's everything you build on Earth. Most things you build on Earth. That's the kind of um overarching pride I will speak to. But most of the things you build on Earth, the part that things are a bit too simple, or that they involve more things to do with moving parts, mechanical engineering, or the electrical things, or something that's more abstract, like the moderators, computer science. So civil engineering. We we build basically structures, and then they're attached to the ground, so we have to deal with uh the ground engineering and the geotechnical, as I worked on quite a lot. And then there's a lot of the transport and and even a lot some of the other things. So uh, water hydraulic engineering. And so it's very big, it's very ambitious, and involves a lot of things. Involves public safety, um, and yeah, it's a very exciting field.
Now let's get into specifics. What's a project that you've worked on that surprised you in terms of the complexity or the creativity required of civil engineering?
Hmm. Right. So I'll speak about a building, at what we call a building project here in Hong Kong. So as opposed to in Hong Kong, civil infrastructure projects are administered differently. But so a building project in Hong Kong, which is considered somewhat large in a city like this, basically uh, it's actually the hospital that I was born in. And now uh, our clients, the hospital, wants to do a redevelopment of the entire uh, old blocks. And to do that redevelopment, they wanted to keep half of it operating while demolishing and redeveloping the other parts, and then demolishing and redeveloping the remaining parts. Okay. And so I was part of the geotechnical team, um, and so we had to design that deep excavation and natural support system, excavating 25 meters down, so roughly 80 feet down underground, and at the same time supporting uh, you know the ground with one side that's higher up, what we call unbalanced earth pressures, because one side is higher up and it has the weight of the entire hospital as well. And so that involves a lot of complexities, and I also supervise the ground investigation on sites to investigate the geology. And you got to be really careful about certain things, like not having things move too much. That's apart from things collapsing, you have to worry not having things move too much in geotechnical engineering or civil engineering. Um, and especially in this case, to make sure it doesn't affect life critical facilities of the hospital. Um, and or maybe during the drilling, I don't want to cut through any oxygen or air lines to the hospital. And so, yeah, that was pretty complex projects, and maybe not everyone would have thought doing an excavation project on Earth would be that complicated if you don't work in this field, right?
Now, sticking on to that topic about things that surprised you or that were complex? Or what's something about civil engineering that you didn't expect until you're actually working in the field? Is there something else that maybe you haven't mentioned or anything?
Hmm. Um, it, I mean, something complex about the field is, I'd say, the amount of people and what we call stakeholders you have to deal with. Because let's say just in civil engineering, you already have so say I was involved in that kind of project, say the geotechnical engineer dealing with the soil and rock, okay, or the excavation, and then I'll already have to deal with maybe the structural engineer, the site civil engineer to with the drainage and maybe the sewerage, uh, and maybe the traffic engineer. Uh, those are just the civil engineers themselves, but more than that, I have to coordinate with the architect for the building in terms of the design and in terms of project management. And in Hong Kong, I have to deal with the surveyors, quantity surveyors, to do with the money and us, and I have to deal with the client for sure, right? So there's a lot of interfacing in building projects like this in when you're in a complex urban environment. Uh, so from that you can see we are an industry that has to face a lot of people. And it is an industry that requires a lot of general skills and general list kind of expertise.
Now, here's a question that's a little bit harder. Now, how do you handle the pressure of knowing that your work directly impacts public safety and infrastructure? Like you mentioned about building hospitals and things like that. How do you handle that pressure of knowing that your work directly impacts this public safety and
All right. Well, um, I think in terms of my framework about this, or just from your question right now, um, if you have your mind clear about this, then it's not that hard. You have to be clear in your thinking, and you have to make the right decisions, and you will face the pressures, but you just have to know when you have to say uh when you have to say no, when you have to find out whether something is right or not. So for example, um, so if so in civil engineering, um, we we do things and all things, most importantly for safety, and and we designed it to make sure uh the calculations are right, and then the estimations are right, or error the errors are towards the side of safety. So they are more conservative. That's one way we deal with it in civil engineering. We over design things a lot of the time, and sometimes you redesign that, and because you find out, oh, you have extra room, and it's time to cut that cost safely. And there are always going to be parties that want to cut corners like at some points, or maybe that down in the line on the site guy uh low us down on the chain, or some construction worker, maybe they don't know about it, or they're uneducated about it, and they want to cut corners, and you have to spot it. You have to say no, or maybe your boss asks you to figure out a certain question, certain problem, asks you to do certain thing, and maybe that's looks unsafe, and you have to find out, you have to uh um and yeah, if it's not safe, then civil engineers really hold paramount the health, safety, and welfare uh of the public. That's really, really important. I like you should have that. You must have that if you come into this industry.
Staying on the vulnerability side of it, what's a mistake that you made early in your career, if you don't mind sharing? And what did you learn from it? And how was that experience?
So you sorry.
Oh,
So the question was the
Uh,
vulnerability, right?
yeah, yeah. What's a
Mhm.
mistake that you made early in your career, and what did you learn from it? And how was that experience?
So I would say it's when so so sometimes when you work um when you do things and especially when you're working as an engineer uh perhaps at a private consultant, you're expected to um know how to do a lot of things or try to figure it out on your own. Um, but at the same time, you really have to know, you have to figure out what things um you're you can do, you're supposed to go and do, and which things which are the hold points, which are the points that you get to that point and then you ask some other party or you ask your boss uh, whether or not to proceed. And then when well, when things are rushed, when deadlines come, you still have to be very clear about that. And yeah, I do remember one instance where you know I very clearly um, sent something to the clients, and then um, but sometimes some things your boss just wants to have a look, and some things he doesn't want to have a look, but some things are important enough, and so I think in that case, it would have been a lot better if that um not so professional kind of uh, work didn't go to the clients and would have been supervised by my boss. And so um, this is one kind of thing or what kind of experience that you will have to pick up as you go.
No, yeah, civil engineering, I can imagine it's a very challenging and demanding field and career to and realm to be in. How do you stay motivated when a project can face all sorts of unexpected things like delays, budget cuts, or challenges? How does managing that look like?
Uh, I I think that's just like life, I guess, though, right? I mean, uh, there are the good times and there are the bad times, okay? And a person has to know to go through the bad times. Um, like and you either do it uh for yourself or for for the project or for the greater good, really. Um, like the project doesn't stop because you're sad. Um, and I mean, you're motivated for the project, the greater good, or you're motivated by your paycheck. Um, um, but you like s- I'd say in life, I mean, um, you better be motivated. And there are like a lot of people who are, you know, who are affluent and who grew up well off. And I would say, um, it it is a super important part of life to face adversity, right? To face things that you don't want to face. And and if you find something that's what we're saying is motivational to you, is interesting to you, is or for some reason, something that drives you. So say you love building things, or you love some part of civil engineering, uh, or you think that the pay is okay, or you think, or you love your family, then that's going to get you through it.
Yeah, now what's a piece of advice to give to someone who's unsure? We've talked about a lot about the civil engineering, what's it like to work. Now let's take it back a little bit. What about an advice that you give to someone who's unsure whether it's the right one to choose? Like, what do you think like they need to have in mind if they're thinking of pursuing this further?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I would love to share about this part because I am the kind of person who applied to four kinds of different like majors or subjects of study in high school to college, right, to university. And and so in terms of which engineering discipline specifically, then um, if if you love the built environments, if you love infrastructure, if you love uh, big things, if you love railways, if you love even highways, even those aren't that sustainable in our world today, or if you love buildings, um, then I think civil's for you. Around the world, uh, there's generally more civil infrastructure projects than uh, building projects. But as opposed to where I am in Hong Kong, there are a lot of building projects. So if either one of those interesting to you, then you can choose civil engineering. And there are I mentioned earlier, there are really quite a few disciplines in civil engineering. There's more general, and there's the structural engineering for both buildings and civil infrastructure, transportation, all kinds of structures. There's the geotechnical, the ground engineering, where you're dealing with the soil and rock. That doesn't mean the structural engineers don't deal with the underground. They still help. Either the geotechnical engineer needs to know the structural uh, be a structural designer, or they need to have someone do the structures underground. Um, and then there's traffic engineers. There might be fewer of them, but if you love it, um, follow your passion, if you can. Yeah. Um, there's other things. There's hydraulics. You don't if you love fluid mechanics, if you love things that move. It's not just mechanical engineering. We have big water problems in the world we have to solve, and big uh, wa water and drainage and water supply systems to build in the world. And so if you're into that, um, go for it. Go find out about that in civil engineering. And another big aspect is environmental engineering, which is very often a major of its own. And its name is pretty broad. It started out with I think it started out with water treatments. So, for example, both potable, drinkable water and wastewater. But now it's obviously a very, very broad field. And so I've just mentioned a few main types of civil engineering, and there's other ones. So it's very much a very broad discipline. Look out for it. Now versus other very quickly versus other kinds of engineering. I mean, for sure, I do of course have a lot of cl other classmates who study other fields of engineering, and that's to be honest, at Cornell, a lot of students choose other types of engineering. So if you're excited about doing things like semiconductors, or you're excited about doing hardware for computers, chips, and things like that, then maybe electronic engineering is for you. And mechanical, if you're interested in other things that move, uh, instead of the other things I've mentioned, and things in civil, then maybe mechanical engineering is for you. And there's really a few. Well, from my college, there were uh, more than 10 majors. So really have an eye out uh, for the different majors in engineering.
No, we've talked a lot about like the individual work that goes into civil engineering. How important would you say is teamwork in civil engineering? And can you share an experience where collaboration made a big difference, or is there one where you want to reshare or anything you want to add?
Right. So you're asking how important teamwork is in civil engineering. Uh it's it's super important. I guess though it's super important. Starting off from school, you will already feel it. Or at Cornell, I felt it. I mean, the professors are kind of nice, and we people want to be together, and we want to be a team, as opposed to some other forms of engineering where it's a bit more about being competitive in competition. Like so for example, like the hospital projects I talked about, and that's very generic teamwork that I'm talking about. And like as I mentioned, there are different types of civil engineers. There are other kinds of engineers. Yeah, I mean, you have to work with uh, the mechanical, the elevators, the lighting, the electricity, the plumbing, and you have to work with a lot of other professionals. And now, if you know in your own team, or if with the um, other stakeholders, other professionals, uh, if you don't cooperate with each other, if you play that way, and of course somebody's going to play that way sometimes, then that projects might start going downhill. Some things uh, aren't going to go well. So at different scales, from your own your very own team and colleagues to the greater projects, it relies greatly on teamwork, and that's also why with new forms of contracts, for example, the United Kingdom IC's NEC contracts that have been adopted quite a lot in the past uh, couple decades in Hong Kong as well. Um, those kind of contracts, they emphasize very much on collaboration between different parties, for the entire project team across different firms and parties to make to help make projects a success instead of uh, um, each party looking out for itself and then having projects fall.
Interesting to see all the different stakeholders that come into play in civil engineering and how important teamwork is. Now, what's a software or tool they use daily that you didn't learn about in school, but now can't imagine working without when you were working in the field of civil engineering?
Well, I would guess some of you even perhaps in high school you might have heard of AutoCAD, and in civil engineering school you probably will hear about AutoCAD. That's the drawing or what we call drafting software to draw accurately, and that's a lot of people choose to learn it at school. I didn't. I learned it by myself before an internship. You'll have to practice and learn by yourself. So that's a pretty standard software. But and beyond that, there certainly are quite some other software. And at so at Arab, my team, my geotechnical team, and my boss, uh, they were a bit more forefront, well, perhaps following the suites of architecture firms and parametric design, and so we a couple these few years we've already been using uh Rhinoceros and Grasshopper with Python scripting um, for quite some of the design and workflow integration that we do. I mean, actually, uh, um, a, a, a year or two ago, Arab already started requiring all the graduate engineers to do that. Um, and so those are some of the newer skills, even in architecture school, uh, that's are coming. So digital design, digital literacy, is going to be really important. I mean, we speak in the industry and within the company that some things are going to make you uh, super engineers and super designers and super computer scientists, and now there's the explosion of more digital tools with AI and things. Uh, some people are going to manage to take the overpower and superpower of that, and some people won't be able to. And so this is how the world is moving, and it it's important to be able to catch up.
No, interesting take, and thank you so much for your insight on that. Now, we've touched on this lightly, but is there anything else you want to mention about balancing technical problem solving with softer skills like communication or project management? How do they blend? How do you feel about balancing that? Do you think it's more technical or more softer skills that are more important in the realm of civil engineering?
Right. I I would say I was saying that both are important, and but firstly, you have if you are dealing with anything that's going to be built, or something that's more or less physical, then you have to have basic competency in the technical side, in the uh in the mechanics and the physics, and getting your math, your numbers right. I mean, one of the ethical responsibilities when we go out there is we don't want to make anything and have it collapse and or in general just injure anybody or kill anybody. And so that's important. Uh, I mean, if you move towards a say a much more soft skill role and maybe uh become less almost less of a traditional civil engineer, more on maybe the project management, program management, uh, and those kinds of things. Maybe then that that's you're not going to use that. Uh, but for most civil engineers, both are important. And and now so on to uh, which one do you use more? You're going to use both, but you're always going to need the soft skills uh, to uh, deal with other people, to manage your own tasks, manage your own projects, and deal with other people. Uh, yeah, and if if you do design and if uh, s- uh, you do some specialism, if you do say geotechnical engineering, you do structural design, you do um, traffic engineering and things like that, then you're going to have to know the technical and the math and maybe the physics of it. Yeah and have and the professional engineering during your career that kind of training and judgments um, to be able to guide you. Mhm.
Now let's talk a little bit about the future. What's the trend in civil engineering right now that excites you and why? And where do you see it going?
Mhm. Right. I would say it's in terms of say the uh, UK, yeah, United Kingdom Institution of Civil Engineers. They along with a lot of internet global civil engineering professional organizations are pushing for um, the sustainable transition, right? Uh, because as they explain, the built environments uh, civil engineering uh, contributes to like built infrastructure contributes to 70% of greenhouse gas emissions of carbon emissions. So that's a majority. And as a civil engineer, as a future civil engineer, you will have the chance to participate in this to be part of cutting the emissions to help us alleviates climate change and global warming, which is, an imminent threat to our world that's been going, that will continue for the next few decades or worse, it seems. And the trend, I mean, there's a lot of trends here, like the most basic being, say greener concrete or alternative materials than just concrete, steel, or even timber and wood. Um, there's there's also in terms of general design in engineering, there's nature-based solutions and um, I'm nowhere an expert about that. But I mean, I just saw on LinkedIn a picture, a post, and they mentioned okay about nature-based solutions. It's not so much, something uh always a burdensome thing. Sometimes it's value added. It's some apart from uh nature-based solutions making some things more sustainable, more green, more less carbon intensive, it also makes it more of a humanistic and attractive place to be and live, right? And so these are exciting trends. And okay, beyond sustainability, uh, there there's also the trend of modular and construction MIC. That's quite exciting. That's being pushed, uh, say here in Hong Kong, and basically it's using it's like prefabrication, but the emphasis is on like your shipping container boxes, those 20-foot containers. That now you're pre-installing a lot of things and everything into it. The mechanical plumbing into that units that might be part of a residential flat, or it might be other things. Um, and so then with MIC or with even other things like DFMA, the design for manufacturing assembly, with MIC, instead of having construction workers put together those things on site, uh, so which is like um, having decades or maybe some certain things don't change for 100 years. Instead of having that, you're actually industrializing, doing all that in the factory, and then just pulling it to sites and lifting those uh, containers to put the building together. So that's one thing, that's picking speed and picking uh, cost efficiency.
Interesting takes on that. Now, how do you see climate change or sustainability influencing the future? Is there anything else you'd like to add about the whole that aspect of it, the sustainability, climate change, of these future trends of civil engineering?
Mhm. I mean, it's well, I'll speak to the general, that this general thing, climate change, first. That's, I mean, a lot of leaders have a pessimistic view at this, right? Because um, not a lot of the world or our countries are doing enough to catch up with the speed of global warming, of climate change. Um, the world is heating up to about 1.4, 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels of temperature. If I remember correctly, I I have spent a lot less time on that after I was working to read into that kind of literature. Um, but we're at a point where uh, some experts or scientists say uh, makes it more irreversible. Um, and a lot of people think it'll get worse. Uh, um, Now, I think in what when you go into the world and start working, uh, I think a lot of people and a lot of in a lot of careers will feel like they are they don't they're helpless uh, to contribute or help the world. They can't really do much. Um, uh, in certain industries, and I mean, frankly speaking. Right now, with the global leadership and political climates, some things are also reversing on the fronts of sustainability and climate change on the highest tiers, and so as a civil engineer, sometimes you will feel the same way. Okay, like. a lot of things you have to uh, listen to do what your boss says, or you have to deliver what your boss says. Um, but there are other creative solutions, and there are most likely positions there that you can pursue. Uh, as I was saying, where you can adopt those designs that are more green with green concrete. I mean, my colleague adopted it. And as I was saying, nature-based solutions, Arab pushes for it quite a lot. My previous firm. Uh, and so on that side, there's uh, if you work as a civil engineer, or uh, if you're interested, and if you're passionate as a civil engineer, and take this kind of career, then there are uh, things where you can make a big difference in the world.
Mm, Now, what's a career opportunity in civil engineering that most people wouldn't think of right away, or something that like you could do with a civil engineering degree that most people think wouldn't think of?
Right. Love to talk about this one as well. Um, so I'll start with one example. Uh, I I did quite some earthquake, seismic liquefaction uh, uh, assessments, and what's that about is under earthquakes, actually, quite some types of soils that are loose, or if they're sticky, cohesive, but have high water contents, they will actually liquefy. They will become a liquid when the ground shakes too much. Okay, shakes for too long a duration with enough magnitude and intensity. And so when I started my career, a few months into my career, uh, that's what my boss started to get me to do. And I mean, I loved it. I love the fact that I could deal with something that's kind of more uh, a dynamic problem. Because in civil engineering, some of the forces that you're dealing are more or less static, or you can model it as static. So I get to deal with something that's like, well, dynamic, and something that turns into liquid. So it's exciting, and I get to contribute to earthquake engineering uh to prevent damage from this kind of disaster, and safeguard lives. So that was very exciting to me. And then later on, uh my geologist colleague uh actually tasked me with looking into, okay, we want to we need to figure out um how we're going to model uh some of our landslides, some of the debris flow we got under the sea. And actually, these debris flows uh, travel for kilometers and kilometers, miles and miles. They are huge. They are even larger than landslides on land above water, and larger than avalanches. Uh, and so I had to review a lot of different kinds of modeling under the ocean, and even on natural hillsides when it rains too much and it becomes a bit more liquid, and um, also avalanche models, modeling snow avalanches. Right, so that's another very dynamic problem, kinds of problems I had to look into. Um, and yeah, so and in terms of other kinds of uh, things you might be able to get into, and if you do civil engineering, um, I can't think of it right now, but I might be able to after a while.
No, thank you so much. Those are really interesting niches and quite literally helping save lives. Thank you for that insight. How has your perspective on infrastructure like road, bridges, or water system changed since becoming a civil engineer?
Right. I'd say you appreciate the efforts that goes into roads and bridges and you know the details you have to think about as an engineer. You have to specify and all the hard work that the blue collars, the construction workers have to put in put hammering each nail, screwing the screws. But also, the kind of complicated design considerations that go into, say, bridges and things like that, right? I'll take this opportunity to just tell you about okay, so the forces that you have to consider when you're designing a bridge, right? You have to consider the weight of the cars going on there, the pedestrians, uh, the dynamics, perhaps if it's large enough of a bridge, of the cars and people going on it, uh, the winds coming from uh, all the possible directions. Don't fail to consider a critical case of wind hitting it. If there's earthquakes, as I mentioned, your earthquake closings, the accidental uh, uh, ship crashing onto your bridge. Uh, uh, you know, as an engineer, as an engineer, as a civil engineer, um, uh, the the best thing you can do and I mean, I do remember a professor telling me this as well. Uh, is is not be able to sleep at night because you're worrying about did you forget to consider a case where a case that would, you know, kill your structure, that would that would damage it or make somebody injured or killed or yeah. Um s- uh I think that that's yeah. Well, that's an important trait to have and that it's an important responsibility. In Hong Kong we're lucky to have sometimes more tiers of engineers to check these things. But around the world, that isn't all quite that isn't usually the case, and we need a lot more engineers and civil engineers, and you have to hopefully you're excited about helping shoulder that responsibility.
Thank you so much for that. Now we're running short on time, so I'll leave you with one more question. What's the best piece of career or life advice that you've received that applies to both civil engineering and beyond that you could leave with students listening?
I think I did mention that I love the analyses. I love being able to have analyzed say uh earthquake liquefaction problems and debris flow problems going down slopes. Uh so I might be different in that case, but I also love how I was able to design certain things, certain structures that were able to be built, uh, um, design it, uh, see it's in the end, or in some cases, and a lot of engineers in actually in Hong Kong, they'll have the fortune of designing their structures and then later in their training go supervise the structure they built sometimes. And that is your typical, very typical uh, pride in civil engineering. That is a very, very special feeling. Uh, and with civil infrastructure, um, buildings are supposed to, and the British standards are supposed to last 50 years. Infrastructure sometimes more, sometimes. Uh, and so the very old saying is you'll design it and then you can point to your grandchildren that you designed and built it. Yeah, but frankly speaking, it is exciting, and it's a feeling that's it's an interesting and exciting feeling that doesn't really go away.
Thank you so much for that. Now we are at the end of our time, but thank you so much to our panelists for spending the time today. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Wonderful insight into the breadth of areas to specialize in, what the key highlights are, as well as some things to watch out for in the realm of civil engineering. So thank you so much for being so open and honest. Now, also thank you to the viewers. I'm sure that you can all agree that our amazing panelist, Nicholas here, has done an amazing job and provided some crucial information to guide decision making around your next steps. Once again, if you need any help with university and career guidance, do check out our website and Instagram. With that last said, one huge thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much, all. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank